few items, one in zoning and a couple of items in discussion. A reminder that the discussion is discussion only. There are no votes taken during a discussion. All right, so let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And for the record, all commissioners are here except Brian Gowland, who is either late or will not be here tonight. Okay, we have distributed prior to the meeting the minutes from the previous meeting. I will now entertain a motion to accept the reading of the minutes and dispense with the reading, if there are no objections.
Any comments? So moved. Second motion.
Second on the end.
Chad, okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. So we will move on. We do not have any items in planning. I will now open the zoning portion of the meeting. This is the public hearing on the re-subdivision of 22240 Pratt's Road. Mark, I believe you can introduce us to that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this was the re-subdivision that you reviewed as a pre-application last month. This would divide a 6-acre property on Pratt's Road into 2 3-acre lots. Each of the lots would have on-site well and septic systems, and the size of the lots and the minimum lot frontage meet the town's requirements for properties that are going to be on an on-site septic system. And the property is zoned residential district. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I certainly recall it from last month.
Yeah.
Any commissioners have any comments or questions that they need clarified? Anything we need other than that? All right. Then we will close the...
You maybe want to see if the applicant has anything they want.
Oh, the applicant, yes, sorry.
If you don't have anything, it's fine, but
Okay.
And
Nothing
then you
yet.
would ask for public comment.
Okay, we will now take any public comment on the re-subdivision. Just, if you would, anytime that we're having comments, I always just remind everybody of this, because it is on YouTube. Please come up to the podium, say who you are, and then make sure you're talking into the microphone. Otherwise, the people at home can't hear you, and they certainly couldn't hear you if you were asking a question from out there. So by all means, go right ahead.
Well, although everything seems to be in order, I seem to recall that in the minutes there was some discussion during the discussion phase of this, of the entrances and exits to the property. And so I'm wondering, not familiar with Pratt's Road at this point, whether any investigation has been done as to whether additional traffic would be in any way harmful in this area, if we've checked to see if the road in question can handle the additional traffic.
That's a good question, Stuart. In the case of a subdivision, basically subdividing it, that doesn't come into account until it's developed. I mean, it could be subdivided and then nothing happened for a long period of time. So when any kind of development is undertaken, that's when what you're talking about would be taken into consideration. Does that answer your question? Well, I'm just saying, like, it's two different operations, if you will, under the ordinances of subdividing versus development.
Yeah, you would just be guessing what could happen at this point
Exactly.
instead of reacting to what they're proposing to do.
Correct.
So,
Correct. Any other public comments?
Move your mics, get your mics close to yourself. Mike,
Yeah, you got to have them in your face like me.
Look to your left, Mike.
Brian's not here.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, hearing no other public comments, we will close the that portion of the meeting so we can move on to taking a vote on it. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the re-subdivision as presented of 22240 Pratt's Road.
So moved. Yeah, I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay. So that will conclude the zoning portion of the meeting. We will now move on to the discussion. So just a reminder of how the format goes. The discussion usually, generally speaking, goes with someone from the town administration will introduce what the discussion topic is, give us the background, hopefully answer a lot of the questions that people might have. Then there'll be a time for the commissioners to make any comments that they want to make, and then you'll get your option to come and make any public comments. So that's how we'll go. If you and just remember these items, we're trying to push them through tonight in a timely fashion. So please come and make all the comments that you want all at once, if you can. Obviously, if you think of something else, we'll try to accommodate you. But if you can, try to make all of the comments that you need to make on your turn. All right. So the first item is the proposed re-subdivision of 71104 Highway 59.
Yeah, this is the pre-application process here for this proposed re-subdivision. This is a property that's just about 2 acres with frontage on Highway 59. The proposal, can you scan up a little bit so we get to the map? Yeah, keep going a little bit further. There you go. The proposal would subdivide the property into 2 lots, both of which are much greater than the minimum lot size, so they would meet the minimum lot size. And the developed structures on the property would be on the northernmost lot, B1. Yeah.
Would be the southernmost by direction, I suppose.
Oh, isn't that the north there? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
north.
Oh, then, yeah, anyway, yeah. So that's this one, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Any comments from the?
Is it, I was looking at it on the zoning map. I couldn't tell, is it commercial with a residential overlay?
Yeah, on this side of the street, the residential commercial overlay extends 150 feet back from Highway 59 for properties along that stretch. 150 feet is about half the length of a city block.
Okay.
So yeah, but the underlying zoning is residential.
It is residential.
Yes, yes.
It's
I believe currently it's a business in there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a development company, I believe.
Yeah.
They use like
Yeah, they have
an
like
office
their-
there. I mean, it looks like a house. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
But it is kind of residentially looking, but it's an office currently.
Yeah.
Southwest Builders moved into that building from the one where now Patches is.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? All right, we will open it up to any public comments.
E.J. Boudreau, St. Joseph Street, Nabita. I know y'all can't do it, so I'm gonna do it, because I'm not one of the group. What are they gonna do with it? I'm real familiar with that property. It's right there by the little bridge and the thing, and he's got him a nice little spot there for his construction company. Really looks nice. He keeps it neat and everything, but the other part of it, I know the guy that had it before him raised a horse there.
Yes.
I guess that'd be okay, but we'd like to know what he's gonna do with it.
There may not be much he can do. A big chunk of that floods pretty bad.
Yeah.
It does.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe you could squeeze a
No.
a residential house, maybe, or a small office, something, you know, in the top
That's
of
right,
it,
you
kind
only-
of there. But
Yeah, you only got like 25 feet after.
yeah, you wouldn't have. Yeah, it wouldn't be much. But yeah,
So-
I mean, yeah, I can't imagine you could build much of anything.
Still like to know if he's gonna build another house or, you know, park cement trucks there or whatever.
Well, they should be here next month, correct?
Well,
Oh, well, if you want to make any comments, it's up to-
Okay. That's all I need to know.
well, there we go. We guessed right. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no further comments. Yeah, I don't see any major troubles with this one at all. I think we can move on to the probably the star discussion of the evening, and that is our work on the amendments to the Abita Springs Code of Ordinances, specifically for the commercial district. We've been doing this for quite a while now, where your participation as citizens has been fantastic. We've actually gotten a lot of really good ideas and baked a lot of that in here. And I'm hoping that we're rounding third and sliding home on this thing. Mark, can you tell us anything you wanted to mention about it?
Kind of an overview. Let me first talk about what we did here for tonight. So I made some additional changes based on your discussion at your last meeting. So I think we've made 4 changes on the uses. I think there was some discussion about allowing public facilities and parks, limiting the number of gas pumps if you're going to allow gas stations.
Yeah.
There was discussion of limiting to 1 single-family residence per lot. And then there was also, along with the idea of the gas pumps, if there were something proposed with more than 2 pumps, that would require going through the conditional use permit hearing process. So a little bigger process for a bigger type gas station. So those are the changes here at this point. These are pretty minor. Let me kind of put this in context. This chapter references other requirements such as off-street parking and loading, possibility of a traffic impact analysis, landscape requirements, driveway design, bicycle parking. Those standards have not yet been written. Well, I'm working on them.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do over the next couple of months, so we've probably hit a double so far. We're at second, waiting to see if somebody can pick us up and drive us home.
Okay.
But we've got these other sections that need to be looked at. So what I'm planning to do is begin sending you those sections as I have them completed, even if it's several weeks before your meeting, give you a chance to read them. So hopefully very soon I should have an off-street parking chapter done. And if anybody's having trouble sleeping, 10 pages of off-street parking standards can help. And I'm also going to send you a new section on what are the standards for a traffic impact analysis? When is it required and what should it entail?
Good.
Along with that, we've obtained from that, we asked the parish for some documents. We've got several traffic studies that were submitted to the parish. And I want to send those on to you just so you can read them. People talk about traffic studies a lot. I'm not sure how many people have ever read any of them. So I wanted to send you some just so you have a sense of what goes into a traffic study.
Right.
And then that would be followed. There's also a section on landscaping, and there's another section on permitting that talks about the whole conditional use permit process and how those hearings are done and all that type of stuff. So there's still a few more sections that you'll need to look at. But I'm hoping for your next month's meeting, I've got my fingers crossed that we'll have at least parking and the traffic impact analysis drafts to look at. And all of these at this point are drafts. They're subject to change. Nothing's up for adoption yet. But once it's all together, I envision this coming forward as a package of amendments that cross-references and works with each other. You don't want to adopt a commercial code that requires landscaping if you don't have a landscaping section adopted at the same time.
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of the longer view of where we're at, yeah. So
Gotcha.
I'm hoping that you've got all those to look at by the end of the year. That's my goal.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, because I think, at least from the comments that I've gotten from lots of people, we want to get it right.
Yeah,
Obviously, we want to have a good set of ordinances. And again, just as a reminder, if you haven't heard me say this before, and some of you are probably sick and tired of hearing me say it, we don't adopt that ordinance. This would just be the set of recommendations, if you will, that we will forward on to the town council. They're the ones who would then amend it or change it. I mean, they can wad it up and throw it in the garbage, or they can take it as is. We're doing the duty of combing through all of this as a planning and zoning commission, so that what we give to them is in really good shape, and preferably is what they could move forward on. You would also get a chance to have public comment at that point as well. So whenever it gets to them, they would, the process would sort of be very similar to the way it is here. They wouldn't just vote it in the first time that they see it. So, having said all of that, I think we'll try to. I think we've done a pretty good job in previous meetings on talking about some of the other items. So I'm just gonna mention the highlighted areas. These are the things that were added, and if we can have any comments from the board first, and then from the public on these highlighted items. That way we can move through this in a timely fashion. So, expand that? Yeah, that'd be not a problem, Lex. Probably right. That good? Okay, yeah, scroll over that. All right, so and by the way, the mayor is graciously playing the part of Kristen tonight.
Well, he's my Vanna White tonight. That's
So
why.
he is doing fine. He is doing fine.
That's right.
So the first one was this is addition, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So public facilities, including utilities and parks and open space areas. So just there are some folks, I'm not saying I'm not one of them, who are interested in seeing a certain property that everyone's known about be turned into a park, especially for intended for anyone, but especially for special needs accessible park to be put right there. So we wanted to make sure that we wrote in there that would be an allowable use, and you wouldn't have to go through any hoops to do that. So I will admit that was my idea to put that in there. Page 2, gas station, I'll tell you what, we'll go back to that. Any comments from the board on number 22? Okay, let's see. That's probably a very not controversial addition. So gas station, including automotive repair, to have no more than 2 pumps. And again, this is and I'm paraphrasing, not saying that anybody actually said this. We're trying to avoid like some giant, Buc-ee's or, some giant gas station being built. Right. So limiting the number of pumps kind of builds that in, and that way we don't have to single out any particular business or, because who knows what kind of places will be named going forward, but limiting it to the number of pumps, and then if anybody wants to have more than that, they'd have to come, and get that approved and have public comment and all that on that as well. So any comments on that one?
So the only comment I have on that one, Mark, we have automotive repair included, but then we have it listed under conditional use.
Oh, whoops.
Number 5, repair of automobiles. I don't know if the intent was to allow like a full serve type with like 1 or 2 bays, and maybe we limit the number of repair bays, or if we're saying any repair shop falls under conditional use, but
I'll bet we were thinking more of like an oil change kind of situation or tire rotation kind of thing.
So you might just want to clean up the conditional use, right?
That's
More
a
than
good-
2 bays or something to give it some scale.
That's a good catch. Let me work on that. Yeah, I completely missed that.
That's a very good point. Yeah, we wouldn't want a giant, huge, car repair place and then 2 gas pumps,
Right.
and we'd want something that's a reasonable size.
Keep in mind, as we talked about last time, we also don't want to render any existing uses as non-conforming because they're no longer allowed in the code.
Correct.
So we're thinking about the gas station
Right.
here.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, we'd say 2 bays, but
2
then if you
bays.
want something more than that,
Yeah.
and that way something like the full serve, I think we all appreciate having that around.
Right.
Sure.
Good
Sure.
one.
The next one is number 30, 1 single-family residence per lot, subject to the development standards of the residential district. So, if you were to go into the commercial district, buy a lot, and say, okay, well, I don't want to build a commercial business, I just want to build a home there, then it's one residence per lot.
And again, that's a situation where we have existing residences like next door and down the street that are in the commercial district.
Right, right. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't come and build a business and then have a dwelling for your family on the second floor.
Right.
It just means that if you're coming in to build specifically a residential building, a single-family residential building, that's what you do, is you follow the residential guidelines of the residential district. So essentially, it's saving them the step of having to come and get it rezoned, because we don't want to have a bunch of spot zones like that. It makes it difficult to manage. Any comments from board members on that one? Okay. Under 32 subsection C, allowable non-residential uses with the following characteristics require approval of a conditional use permit as outlined elsewhere in the ordinances. And the addition, I'm taking that, is that gas station having more than 2 pumps. Now, the only question I had about this one was, is that redundant since it's already spelled out as no more than 2 on number 29?
No, because, well, there's 2 ways to look. If you don't put in the conditional use, then that's all that will ever be is 2 pumps, and that may be what you want.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
This leaves an opportunity for a larger place subject to a bigger review process. That's a policy choice on your end as to whether or not you want to go that route.
Gotcha. So, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get you. All right. Well, any comments from board members up here? And were those all of them?
That was it.
That was it.
Pretty
Okay.
small, yeah.
So
Thank you,
let's do this. Let's go back to the first one. Anybody have a public comment about number 22, public facilities including utilities and parks and open space areas?
I don't want to sound negative all the time, so I'll take this opportunity to sound positive. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yes.
I just want to say about that handicap park. I think that Yvette Pennington is the hero in this whole Dollar General thing. She saved the town. She really did, from a lot of problems. But I think that would be a perfect thing for her to do, especially given her family history, you know. And there are a lot of grants available to help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
Something like what they have at the end of Coop Drive or something like that. So that'd be great.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
100% agree. All right. Anybody else want to say anything about the park thing? Okay. All right. The next one, number 29, the gas station having. So, just to clarify, Mark is going to adjust that for the actual number of bays.
Right.
But having no more than 2 gas pumps. So in essence, what we're doing is making the gas station that we already have as an, you know, that's sort of a model, if you will, of what we're making allowable in the commercial district. So if anybody has any comments on that. Go ahead, Stuart. And I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and lump in the next one with it, as that if they want more than 2, they would have to come and get approval of that.
Well, my name's Stuart Eastman, for those of you looking online who might be new. At present, the zone, the commercial zone, does not allow gas stations at all. So we're essentially moving backwards in this. I understand that we're trying to make it convenient to not be using grandfather tricks on the ones that are already there. But we shouldn't be trying to maintain and allow new ones. There could easily be a new one move in. We don't know what is in the mind of developers and such like. Now, last year, Petaluma in California, if you've never heard of that, and I hadn't either, that's the one where Laguntas Brewing is based. I've heard of them because I like their beer. But they banned gas stations, all new gas stations. Not the old ones, but they banned new gas stations and banned additional pumps at any of the current gas stations. And it's currently being discussed elsewhere in California and Los Angeles. So that's the wave of the future. Gas is gradually going away. You don't want people investing in creating more pollution in town, and we don't want to be moving backwards. We want to be moving forwards. So we can control the grandfathering bit simply by saying, in the commercial district, no new gas stations or additional pumps after whatever date, the signing date of this ordinance. That's an alternative way of doing that you could consider. And in the meantime, we don't need more gas stations. We would be very ill-advised to introduce that extra pollution into our town. And I hope you just take those 2 lines out. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I will back up Stuart. I agree.
Anyone else want to chime in on the gas station part? Okay. Hearing none, let's do the last one, which is the number 30. The oh, you went past it. Yep. Up, right there. Okay. That if someone's going to build a single-family home on a commercial property, then that is subject to the standards of the residential district guidelines. Any comments on that?
Only comment, I would actually love to see many residential homes there, but when somebody buys a lot size at the standard residential size, does that mean every time they do that they have to come here, or what I'm wondering is can somebody get that piece of property and then split it up and make like a small subdivision in there? What is that? I'm trying to ask, is that what goes on with this?
Right.
I don't think people are going to buy one lot size at a time unless somebody develops it.
Right. Yeah. I suppose you could, which would be a sneaky way of doing it, which is why we were limiting it to the one on a lot. So yeah, someone could come in and say, okay, I want to buy this big, huge commercial property, chop it up, and then start building homes on it. And probably what we would have to do is then go and talk to that person about going through the proper channels of doing a development. Hopefully, no one would be that way. But yeah, what we're trying to do is develop these to such an extent that they're so straightforward and everything is incorporated so that very few people have to come up here and ask for something because it's already in the ordinances as an allowable use, and exactly how you can do that is specified.
I understand it says it's allowable, but
Right.
I'm just kind of wondering, it's allowable and, there's some pieces of land there, 6-7 acres, so,
Yeah.
there's a lot of houses could go in there at the, forgot what the exact size is, 70 by 1 something, don't remember the number, but, there's a lot of houses that could fit in that space, and it makes me think of a developer developing a small subdivision in there, so. I don't know, I didn't know if that was y'all's, because I doubt if an individual's gonna buy a very small lot and put a house there.
Right, and yeah, we're envisioning it more so as a small commercial property. To your point, that someone might buy and then decide, okay, maybe it could be an old business that they decide, I want to tear that down and build a house there because I really like where the location is or something.
All right, thank you.
Can I
Sure.
get your name for the record?
Lex LeBlanc?
Got it, thank you. Okay, thank you, Lex. I would note too that I still need to have some discussions with the legal department about the uses here. And I want to ask them about the situation of a possible residential subdivision occurring and what's the best approach.
Yeah,
to
I mean, that's a good
That
point.
raises a very
I don't
good-
want to create some loophole that somebody can
Right.
come in and then,
Right, because your commercial
ma-
land
make
is, you
a-
don't have as much of it. Typically, in any city, you don't have as much, and you need to use it wisely. So,
yeah, absolutely. We just want to allow for
Yeah, so let me,
properties that we already have that are in a commercial
yeah,
area.
let me check with legal on that.
But yeah, right.
Thank you, Sandra Slifer. The only question I have is that when I was in college, I lived in a really charming old craftsman duplex house. Yeah, that had the big front porch, the big brick columns out there. We've talked about in some areas that higher density is appropriate, and in a commercial zone, it may be that higher density, as opposed to a single-family home on a larger lot, I don't know. I'm just curious as to whether or not we might be able to allow for a duplex as well as a single-family home, and it may be more conducive to converting that into two smaller businesses that in all likelihood would fit in better in the scheme of a beta anyway than a single-family home that was 2,200 square feet. I just don't see that as being as viable as two smaller town or duplexes.
Right.
With
Right.
Again, adhering to the historic guidelines and that maybe it might be an appropriate, an addition, and perhaps even more appropriate than a single-family home in some cases in the commercial zone. So I just want to throw that out there.
The only thing I would that is a great point, and it actually we have a multifamily zone,
Yeah,
and I think what you're talking about is where do we plan? Where should we plan in a master plan for that to be? And maybe that should be in some places that are commercial right now.
maybe. Yeah,
And
it's
so-
I think I'm more comfortable with that than I am with the single-family homes, even in the commercial zone, as a way of being a better retrofit. And there's got to be a place where there's more density that makes sense, and putting it's just something to consider. That maybe there's a place for that, and I'm not talking about the ugly duplexes that are down in Mandeville that you see.
Right,
I mean,
no.
I have friends who have owned those, but I really something that has, kind of doesn't have to be a craftsman, but, the one that I lived in happened to be a craftsman style, and it fits in with a lot of the historical guidelines. And I think it could be cute and retrofitted.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think we do fully intend to do, to as a part of the plan, and I think that to your point, I think that's much more of a layout, and then if we say, okay, this is where that makes sense, let's put that as a multifamily zone.
But it's only a single, here it just says single family.
Yes, so that it,
Multifamily and townhouse condominium residential are both permitted uses in
Right.
the draft.
that just wasn't what we changed tonight.
and I
Yeah,
think
so that's number 31.
Yeah.
And I think, Mark, what you were getting at with consulting legal on the single-family residence, maybe if that were in conditional use or there were some additional conditions around single-family and leaving the multifamily townhouse condo under permitted uses would kind of minimize the chance for single-family in a commercial zone.
But we already have some single-family in commercial zone. That would automatically push them out.
Yeah.
It creates a tough standard for someone who wants to come in and build a single home to suddenly have to justify why that home, the impacts. You usually want a conditional use permit when there's something that has some off-site impacts.
Yeah, I thought we changed 30 because Regan Contois brought that up as this was a way to prevent a back door by saying it was just a single. That was the whole reason
Right,
they did it.
right. But again, I'll check all.
Well, yeah, and which is true. That is what we were talking about. I think that to Lex's point, we're talking about somebody who might come in and carve it up and then say, okay, I want to put one on each one and kind of backdoor in a PUD, basically, which we don't want to have that happen. We want, if you're going to do a development, you follow the development rules. And so, yeah, I think Mark can probably come back to that so that we can get legal. I'm sure somebody's dealt with this and we can get a good opinion.
What Sandra said about the duplexes has reminded me, I'm not sure if it's in this particular ordinance or not, but there's a peculiarity in the way we allow combination business and residence buildings, in that the business has to be at the bottom and the residence can't be more than one half. And that is quite traditional, but it doesn't actually fit some of the buildings that will come up. And I think we really ought to loosen those up. For example, in the laundromat building, the old laundromat building, the owner wanted to use a relatively small attic plus half the bottom floor for a residence, and she wasn't allowed to do that, but it was a perfectly reasonable use for the building and just didn't fit in with this rather out-of-date code. So I think it ought to be looked at when you come up to that point.
Yes, that is a good point. Yeah, Mark, take note of that one, please. I think that's a really good point. Anyone else? No, you can come. Yeah.
Brenda Lanier. I looked at the interactive map that is on the Town of Abita website, and you can click on commercial properties and see the commercial properties in town, who owns them, the size for most of them. And they range from a half an acre to 1,000 acres. So these allowable uses are gonna have to be in accordance with the size. And some of the bigger parcels some of it's commercial and some is not commercial by the same owner. Some are inside the town limits and a portion of it's outside the town limits, and it's the same owner. Some are developed, some are not developed. Some have homes on them and they're commercial. Some are on major roads and some are on minor roads. So when, it seemed like we got caught with the allowable uses, on a commercial property, once it's listed, that seems like that's allowed and they can build on that. I would think, I don't know, this may be from Mr. Fancy and Mayor Curtis, but with all these different sizes and places and major roads and minor roads in and out, it seems like each person would have to come to the town and discuss it instead of just saying, I want to do this and it's an allowable use and I'm allowed to do it. That's just my opinion, because you can't put something on a half an acre that's up in those allowable uses. And it's commercial, and they would have the right to do it. It's just, I was wondering about that. When you make
I have a feeling our legal counsel would probably have a stroke with that one.
Yeah, I don't know that I have an answer for that. I mean, it's, I don't know. At this point, you know, our goal is to do the paper exercise of writing a better commercial zone. The next step will be, where is that applied to land? And what changes need to be made? So
I tell you what, Brenda, would you mind asking that question again when Paul is here? So that
Okay.
the lawyer.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Ask it when he is here, because I don't want to give you an answer that's not
And it may be
useful.
when the town council comes, because each person that comes, we're thrilled you want to be in Abita. We'll do everything we can, but it seems like there's going to have to be applications. I know the different towns, Slidell does it. What do you want to do on this property? What's the size, you know? And then all these driveways, landscaping, drive-up windows. Well, we can't do this. Your property's commercial, but we can't do it on 100 by 100 and I think it's 79-foot lot.
yeah, if you can't do it, you can't do it.
You can't
I mean,
do it,
and
but
you've got
they'll
to provide
say-
things like off-street parking,
Right.
and landscaping, and proper driveway access. So if it won't fit, and you can't do it.
Right,
We don't-
even if it's an
we don't
allowable
wedge it
use.
in just to accommodate people. Keep in mind also, there's one of the sections that needs to be written is a whole section on permitting that you've seen a draft of a couple months ago. And that deals with the process for coming before this commission to get approval for various things. A lot of it here is based on tree clearing. Tree clearing triggers a development permit, and that's a process that comes before
Yeah,
this group.
it just seemed like we got caught with, there was gonna be parking lot lighting close to a residential, and, you know, just, it seemed to me that it was gonna be pushed through over objections, and that,
Well, that's what this is all about.
yeah, my opinion, each of these needs to be looked at, what you're gonna do and how it impacts our town and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does everybody mind if we wrap that topic up? If you want to make a comment about one highlight, go right ahead. Go ahead.
I've mentioned these two things before. One of them I think is pretty important. The other one's not important, but what the heck. And first is line 7. And my problem there is with the wording. There only are 3 words, but where it says bank or financial institution, I would urge you to say bank or credit union, because when you say financial institution, you could be allowing, one of the most insidious bottom feeder businesses in the country which is the payday loan sharks. And they are broadly defined as financial institutions and discussions of them. And I really don't think we ought to have them come into town without even a special permit. or such like. And so if we could change that to the more formal bank or credit union or just bank, I'd suggest that.
Okay.
The second one, which on line 18, maybe I'm just out of date, but I find adding axe throwing into the entertainments as being odd and inappropriate.
That's a big thing now, Stuart. There's a place over there in Covington that you can go throw axes at.
And
I thought you wanted to be with the times, Stuart.
big or not, many people probably don't realize that Abita has a relatively sad history with regard to axes. Our founder, or one of our two founders, Colonel Christie, well, he was a rough and rather nasty character, but anyway, he and his brother attacked a newspaper with axes in New Orleans, and the newspaperman shot them, but he survived, and they managed to wreck the newspaper. And then later on, one of our other founding fathers, Edward Bossier, was struck and maimed by an axe blow while attempting to capture a criminal here in Abita Springs. So I don't think we go well with axes, and I'd rather not see it.
Thanks, Stuart. All right. Let's move on to our last item on the discussion, the extension of temporary moratorium on certain commercial development. Do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up that in your next meeting, there will be a public hearing on making a recommendation on an ordinance to the council to extend the moratorium. I'm not sure the total number of months yet that it's going to be requested, but to fit all this process that I described earlier in and all that. So anyway, that will be coming to you next month. And again, you're just making an advisory opinion to the council, who will adopt the ordinance.
Yeah, that's to facilitate everything that we were talking about just now, so that we have enough time to do this right, instead of, making hasty decisions and then making more mess than we had to start with. So yes, we will bring that out next month in that one. Any discussion from the board? Or I think probably we'll cover that much more extensively next month. I don't think that. All right, so we now will have the portion of the meeting where it's open comments. Now, just to say, open comments means you come up and make a comment. It's not a question and answer period. We will not be responding to it. It's just an opportunity for you to come up and make a public comment. If you would, please confine that to 3 minutes or less.
Yeah, that's what we started. Yeah.
All right, hearing none, we will go to announcements. Any announcements? No? All right. The chair will then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I've got a copy here that'll go on. Yeah, he's already signed it. Oh, get him. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Mike. Yeah, next week I'll be here Wednesday and Thursday morning, so I come here for about 9 to noon. Yeah, yeah. That'd be great.